Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Vicarage. I am Penn on this Tuesday morning. Nice to see you, and welcome to our Bible talk today. And we're working our way through the Gospel of Matthew. I've said before, and I'll say again, when you read the Bible, don't just hear it with your head. Try and feel it with your heart as well. And I think this morning's reading is one of those when that particularly applies. So when you hear about the synagogue ruler, and when you hear about the woman in the story here, try and really feel it as I tell the story this morning. It's just, I've often found that feeling the Bible as well as reading the Bible kind of makes it come alive more. So there's the thought for the day. Anyway, we are working our way through the Gospel of Matthew, and we're in Matthew chapter 9 today. And I'm going to start reading at verse 18. Set the scene. Jesus has he's done the Sermon on the Mount. He's come down from the mountain. He's healed various people. Then he went across the lake. And he healed some demoniac at the other side of the lake. Then he came back across the lake. And since he's come back to a place called Capernaum, which was kind of his base, he's been healing lots of people, which he does in this morning's reading. So here goes, Matthew chapter 9, starting to read at verse 18. While Jesus was saying these things to them, suddenly the leader of the synagogue came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I'll be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. When the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout that district. As Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him, crying loudly, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he entered the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I'm able to do this?" They said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." And their eyes were opened. Jesus sternly ordered them, "See that no one knows of this." But they went away and spread the news about him throughout that district. After they'd gone away, a demoniac who was mute was brought to him. And when the demon had been cast out, the one who'd been mute spoke, and the crowds were amazed and said, "Never has anything like this been seen in Israel." But the Pharisees said, "By the ruler of the demons, he casts out the demons." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Hope you could feel in that some of the emotion, especially behind, as I say, the man who's lost his dear young daughter, and the woman who had hemorrhages for so many years, and the uncleanness that will have come with that, and the sheer desperation. And if you really feel that, it really makes the story come alive. But at the moment, in this story we had this morning, Jesus seems to be healing lots of people. But I believe very strongly that these healings are not just scattergun, that they actually point to something beyond themselves. Let me show you what I mean. Apart from the girl and the woman in the story here, Jesus also, in this morning's reading, he heals two blind people and also somebody who's mute. Now, the Greek word for mute could mean deaf and mute. That's what it literally could translate as. And I think what this is what Matthew wants us to see here, because Matthew's a big fan of the Old Testament. In Isaiah chapter 5, chapter 35, it talks about the time when the Messiah is going to come. And so beautifully sung in Handel's Messiah, it says, "Then shall the eyes of the blind be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame leap like a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing for joy." So what do we have in this morning's reading? We have blind people receiving their sight. We have deaf and dumb people being able to hear and speak again. And what did we have yesterday? We had a lame man being made to walk. So Isaiah 35 said that when the Messiah comes, the eyes of the blind will be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped, then shall the lame leap like a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing for joy. And I think what Matthew is pointing to is, by doing these miracles, Jesus is showing that he is that person. That's the first thing. So Jesus fulfills Old Testament prophecy. But apart from that, in this morning's reading also, we have Jesus, as I say, healing the young girl and the woman with the issue of blood, as it says, the hemorrhage. And I think in the case of the woman, she, as I say, she'd have been friendless, because in those days, if you had that particular bleeding problem, you had to be unclean and you had to keep away. You had to social distance, as we'd say nowadays. So she'd have been poor, she'd have been ill, she'd have been desperate. And by healing her, Jesus demonstrates his power over this uncleanness, over this shame, you might say. And with the little girl, it's quite clear here that the little girl had died. And in bringing her back to life, Jesus is showing that he has power over death. She had died, but he brings her back to life again. So I think what this and the last chapter point to, if you put it all together, what do you have in Jesus? This says something amazing about Jesus. It tells you that this Jesus is the fulfiller of Old Testament prophecy in Isaiah 35. He's the fulfiller of the Old. He's the one the Old Testament's all been waiting for. It tells us that he has power over the sickness. He healed Peter's mother-in-law. He healed people with leprosy. He healed lots of sick people. He's shown he has power over sickness. On the lake, he stilled the storm, showing he has power over the weather. When he got to the other side, he cast demons out of two demon-possessed men, thus showing he has power over demons. With the paralyzed man, he said to the man, "Your sins are forgiven." He has power, he shows he has power over sin. With the leprous people and with the woman in the story this morning, he shows he has the power over ritual uncleanness. And with the little girl, he demonstrates he has power over death. These are all things which show that Jesus is quite a guy. All pointing together, all coming together, piece by piece by piece, all lots and lots of pointers, showing that Jesus is much more than just a good bloke, but he's actually God. Because by showing he's the one the Old Testament's been waiting for, showing he has power over sickness, showing he has power over the weather, showing he has power over demons, showing he has power to forgive sin, showing he has power over uncleanness, showing he has power over death. This clearly points Jesus is more than just a good bloke, that Jesus is the main man. And this passage is all about Matthew's crying out to show us that Jesus is the main man. He is the Messiah. And he is divine. And that's what Matthew wants us to see. This is all about Jesus Christ, this. These are great stories of healing, but they're all pointing together to show just who Jesus is. But there is a bit of a sting in the tail, because it gives Jesus a bit of a problem. Because on the one hand, he has to demonstrate that he is the Messiah, that he fulfills all Testament prophecy, and he has the power of it. He has to show that he is the Messiah. On the other hand, Jesus also knew that his greatest work was yet to come. He was not going to save the world by doing these things. He was ultimately going to save the world by dying on the cross and rising again for you and me. That was to be his pièce de résistance. That was to be the denouement, the climax of his ministry. He was to die on the cross and rise again for us. And I think that is why Jesus tells them tells the blind men, it was the blind man, wasn't it? He tells them not to go and tell anybody. What theologians call the messianic secret. Because if they'd spread about the miracles too much, people would have got so absorbed by the miracles that they'd have missed out on the main event, which was yet to come, which of course is the cross. And Jesus is saying, my time, I think he's saying here, my time has not yet come. And don't hang your faith on the miracles. I'm not coming here as a miracle worker. I've come as the Messiah to save the world. And by doing these things, he's showing that he is the Messiah. But his greatest work was not by doing these things. His greatest work was in the cross and the resurrection, which came later. Which is why I believe Jesus tells people, don't go and telling you, don't spread it. I mean, people did anyway, because they wouldn't they? Wouldn't any of us in that situation? But that's why he says, don't spread it now, because my time has not yet come. My great work, my pièce de résistance, you could say, these are great, but you ain't seen nothing yet. My greatest work is yet to come. The cross and the resurrection. My death and my resurrection, he says, that is going to be my finest hour. That's what I came to. So I'm showing I'm the Messiah, but my greatest work is yet to come. So don't get stuck on the good, because the greater is yet to come. So this story, these readings this morning show us that they're all pointing to the fact that Jesus is the Messiah. As I say, the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy with power over sickness, power over the weather, power over demons, power over sin, power over uncleanness, ultimately power over death, Jesus has shown he is that man. But through all this, he is the main man, but his greatest work is yet to come. God bless you,